Well, hi everybody. Welcome to my monthly Patreon hangout. This is actually kind of a busy day for me, and I feel like I'm bouncing back and forth between 3 or 4 different emotional states because in addition to doing this today, which I've been really looking forward to, I'm also recording a movie review podcast with Jason with a D, and then after that, this evening, is WrestleMania. So I'm going from like Patreon YouTube guy to movie review guy to wrestling fan guy, all in the space of one day. And the movie we're reviewing is Love Story, so I just had to watch that like right before we did this. So that's where my headspace is at right now. So, have any of you guys seen that movie? I'm gonna talk about it for this podcast, but you guys who have seen Love Story, what are your thoughts?
Saccharine. In a word, saccharine. I actually saw it in a theater back in the early 70s, I think, when it was first released. And just, God, what's her face saying, "Oh, but love, it means never having to say you're sorry." And I just want to cringe.
Oh, I have seen that.
You have?
I have. It just doesn't seem to have laid enough of an impression on me to remember any of it.
Well.
Or it was a long time ago, I guess.
Well, lucky you, because it left an impression on me, and it's pretty much the same one that Lauren just described. It's not a very positive impression.
That is a terrible line. Love means never having to say you're sorry. It's like,
no, it doesn't.
Love is a lot about compromise. I mean, a relationship is compromise anyway. Never having to say you're sorry. That sounds like the abuser side of the relationship there. Ooh.
Yeah, and it's weird because they both say it. And they both appear to mean it in the movie. And it's, it's sort of like, doesn't love mean having to say you're sorry all the time? That's what it's meant to me. I mean, I don't mean that in like a negative way. I think that's just the nature of it, if you...
Love also means accepting the fact that you're going to fuck up and being willing to be upfront about that. And with if presuming on how badly you fucked up or not, your partner being able to say, okay, look, we can deal with this. There's some work to be done here, but ultimately, not to the point where okay, that you're going that way, I'm going that way. That's it. It's
not only that.
It was just.
Yeah. Sorry.
We collided.
There was a pile up there.
In a relationship, I think there are times when I think you have to demand an apology too. I mean, when someone really fucks up and they, those people are like, well, no, I didn't do anything wrong. Like, no, seriously, there's nothing wrong. You need to apologize. There's a point where you have to say sorry, and that
a lot of that depends on how obtuse either party is to what's going on and the dynamic going on. One of the things I'm very grateful of with my wife is the fact that we can talk to each other about anything, and if there's a priority in anything in kind of a relationship, if you're not communicating, you're in deep sneakers, and that's all it is as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I mean, well, and that what Brett just said about sometimes you have to demand an apology, and only a sociopath would see love that way. Like, you don't have to say you're sorry. Well, but I mean, you should at least maybe be sorry, shouldn't you? If you do something really bad. I mean, it's really. I mean, I hadn't watched it for a few years. It's one of those movies because Ashley has a more positive opinion of it than I do. But I've managed to sort of drag her down more and more. I've chipped away at her. But, so it's not a movie that I watch very often because it's not even like a bad movie that's fun to watch. Like, I could watch a movie like Roadhouse like every day. I could literally watch that movie every day and I'd be so happy because it's bad in a really fun way. But Love Story is just almost insufferable. And it's like, and it was nominated for Oscars, and there's this whole, subset of the audience that thinks it's just the greatest thing ever, and
I thought love was one of the things that we're the most immature about. I mean, our picture of love is one of the most immature things that we have.
I think it was one of the last products of the whole Summer of Love thing of '69, although it was produced a few years after that. I think what gets reflected in it also is the fact that was probably one of the last films of that kind that showed up before Watergate. And I mark Watergate up on that because Watergate, in a large portion, was the loss of innocence of Americans to what America was. And I think that's a demarcation point for me right there.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't around at the time of Watergate, but there does seem to have been like that was a point where a lot of cynicism entered the popular culture. That I mean, they had been there previously, but maybe not as pervasively. You know, like there had been popular entertainments that addressed negative things about American culture, or negative things about America, but there was a lot of it sort of had this attitude of, well, but we can make it better. There was like an activism mixed in with it. And I think after Watergate, there was less of that. It was more like, no, things are just shitty. You should just get used to how shitty things are.
Was that in the 70s or the 60s?
Watergate?
Yeah.
Well, it was the actual break-in. Yeah, the actual break-in was 72, and then Nixon resigned, I think, in 74, didn't he?
That's correct. Yeah, it's like August, I think, of 74, somewhere in that vicinity. I remember actually watching his resignation speech and hearing my neighbor downstairs from me, when he was, talking about his culpability for it, so right on, something like that. Just, there were a lot of people in Cleveland very pissed off at Richard Milhouse Nixon. Oh boy.
It was interesting when I was in school. Actually, I think I was in middle school, and I can't remember what the circumstance was, but I saw like a video of Nixon's farewell address. And if you ignore the fact that it's Richard Nixon saying it, and you ignore his, the crimes that he very probably committed to get himself to that point, and you just look at it just purely as a piece of rhetoric, it's actually a really nice speech. I mean, he talks about how you shouldn't hold a grudge, and you shouldn't be petty, and the only way that you can be destroyed is if you destroy yourself. And it's like, which I guess he would know something about. But it's like if you take away the Nixon part and you just look at it as a speech, like, well, that's some really good advice. It's too bad that the guy who gave it didn't actually follow any of it.
Have you ever heard Ben Stein talk about Nixon?
No, not at length. But he worked for him, right? Wasn't he a speechwriter for him?
Yeah, I believe so. He talks about him like he's a priest or something, like he's a great man.
I mean, he did have admirable qualities. It's just none of them happened to be in the ethical part of his brain. I mean, he was a... Go ahead.
I kind of have two responses to that. I kind of have, Nixon overall as a president, not terrible, with crimes notwithstanding. And the other thing I think is fucking Ben Stein.
What was that?
Fucking Ben Stein. Gracious. For a smart guy, he's an idiot.
Yeah, that was what, sometimes people ask me, like what, because when celebrities fuck up, or when celebrities say something stupid, or it turns out that maybe someone whose work you really admire has like politics that are diametrically opposed to yours, like, sometimes people react and they're like, oh, like, and they feel like they can't like that person anymore. And I usually don't go there. I usually don't feel that way. But Ben Stein is one of those people where, like, I really enjoy him as a performer. Like, I think when he does cameos in movies, or when he was doing Win Ben Stein's Money on Comedy Central with Jimmy Kimmel, I thought that was such a great game show, and he was so good in that role. I was like, man. And then when he started coming out really, really hardcore as a creationist, it kind of ruined it for me, because I mean I knew about his politics. I knew that he was a conservative and he was a Republican, and he had this background with the Nixon administration. I knew all of that going in, and I still really enjoyed him as a performer. But when he did that Expelled movie, which I saw in the theater, and I mean I was just like, oh God, like this is just so bad. It really kind of shifted my perception of him like a lot.
I didn't notice him turning into a creationist. in a public eye.
Yeah, he shows up every so often on CBS Sunday Morning, and I just want to just turn him off because just that smarmy, condescending tone of his, which is just like fingernails in a blackboard. I can't stand it. And at this point, I have no use for him whatsoever.
Yeah. It's like, you're the guy who said Bueller, okay?
Bueller.
You're not really that cool.
And
I thought his image was antithetical to cool.
the main problem is probably just the outspokenness. I mean, it's probably the same reason that, like you said, but they just have this view that you can't stand. Like if Jenny McCarthy, for example, kept her mouth shut, I might like her, and also she was a good actress. So, or what's his name? Rob Schneider, you know, how he goes on Twitter and his crazy rants.
Yeah. Rob Schneider and some of the lesser Baldwin brothers as well seem to have this. They seem the ones other than Alec. They seem to have these conservative streaks in them. You know, it's like what happened to you guys? Like, do you remember a few years ago somebody even started a website for Stephen Baldwin, like to raise money for him, because I guess his career was so in the toilet. And they said they
need a Kickstarter for Steve Baldwin. Please.
Yeah, just do some direct-to-video, you know, softcore thrillers. You'll get back on top in no time. I'm sure they would love to have a Baldwin in one of those.
Steve Baldwin is down to one silk kimono.
I like that. Oh, yeah. The Baldwin from Biodome. He's become a warrior for Christ, and we need to support him.
Alec Baldwin's commercials for the NPR pledge drives are one of my favorite things.
Oh, I know those. Yeah, those are really funny. Yeah, he doesn't Alec have a show now? Doesn't he have an NPR show?
I don't know.
He used to. I thought he used to, but yeah,
he's
actually. Go ahead.
Well, I listen to NPR whenever I drive, and I haven't. But then I'm in Idaho. I don't know how much they like Alec.
Yeah, I'm a big NPR listener too. I guess this week was Pledge Week, which I don't know. And Pledge Week on NPR is always a little bit less fun than it is on PBS, because on PBS, like they break out, like, you know, when I was a kid, they would always show the Victor Borga specials.
Oh,
like during Pledge Week, they really get you. It really gets you to you know, make the donation, and that was cool. And on NPR, they kind of just play mostly the same programming, just with a lot more interruptions.
I can't stand the PBS Pledge Drive stuff because they interrupt the shows I actually want to watch to show like spirituality and health nonsense. I want to see Nova, and I want to see nature. I don't want to see that Dwyer guy, the bald guy with the hat, telling me how to live longer and all this other homeopathic crap.
Yeah. Oh, Haley's Hints. They would show our local PBS station would show Haley's Hints, which is just like household tips, like how to get stains out and stuff. And
yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, which is, I mean, it's kind of fun in like a cheesy, kitschy kind of way. But yeah, it's like if I'm watching PBS, I'd rather just, you know, show Masterpiece Theater, for Christ's sake. I don't care about.
I'd be more willing to donate if they showed like a special Nova or a special Nature during Pledge Drive than this other stuff.
And did it uninterrupted.
Yes.
Yeah. They kind of caught on to something a few years ago when they started doing like they would do like and I know they do this on NPR. I don't know if they do this on PBS as well, but they would have like little mini pledge drives throughout the year, and the hook for those was, if we raise enough money here, then we won't interrupt programming for the big pledge drive. Like, they were basically limiting the major pledge drive as the hook for, you know, driving fundraising in the rest of the year. I thought that was a clever sort of acknowledgement of how everybody hates Pledge Week.
That's something that WKSU has actually implemented. I mean, it's a couple of years ago. I think they hit it well enough that they actually eliminated, I think it's either their fall or their winter pledge drive, which was lovely. And, I mean, they actually followed through on it. So, you know, they actually mean what they say.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to figure, since so much business is conducted online now, I mean, if they did just sort of have a regular reminder just to make people aware that it is a pledge-driven enterprise and that they can donate at any time. I mean, really the pledge week concept could kind of be phased out. I mean, you don't really have to rally the troops and go, okay, everybody pick up the phone and call and make your pledge, because, you know, people can make a pledge anytime. They can just hop onto the website and, I mean, just like what I'm doing here.
Right, but they're totally skewing to a group of people who have not caught on to the internet yet.
That's true.
When they give stuff away and they're like, get this Temptation CD. I live in Detroit, so they give a lot of Motown stuff away. Yeah. But like CDs and stuff like that, people my age, I don't need that stuff. Why would I donate to get a CD? So they're totally skewing towards older people.
That's true. That's true. PBS they do have an older. I mean, I don't know if anybody else has ever watched it, but I have not seen a single episode of Downton Abbey.
So me either.
Nope.
Zero interest in it.
Yeah, I just don't care. I did finally watch, though, this past week, and so it's still fresh in my mind. I did finally go back and watch the original British House of Cards, and it was phenomenal. It was really, really good.
So that's not even original programming for Netflix, huh? They stole it from the Brits.
We stole it from the Brits.
We stole everybody. The only thing they stole from us apparently is Law and Order, and even there, I can't remember the executive producer for that. You know, but apparently was behind it. So
Dick Wolf.
Dick Wolf, that's him.
Yeah, Dick Wolf.
So did you watch all 3 miniseries of House Cards?
Yeah, I watched all through House of Cards, To Play the King, and the final cut.
I'm halfway through To Play the King at this point. But I got into it because I know Bill Willimon had done, what's the name of the movie, Ides of March, also known as Farragut North. I saw Farragut North as a player here locally. So that's what got me into it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I had just, because I had just finished season 3 of the American version that just came out earlier this month on Netflix, or I think maybe last month, and I was sort of in a House of Cards mood. I was like, I want to watch. I wish there was more of this, and I just said, you know, to hell with it. I'm just going to watch the original version, because now the original version is on Netflix as well, and I thought it was awesome. I thought it was better than the American version, especially the lead character. Francis is just terrific.
Personally, I think Francis Urquhart is a bit more sinister than Francis Underwood is.
Oh yeah, but he's more charming too. I love the way
I thought Kevin Spacey was there.
Sorry. You know, well, because with Urquhart in the British version, like when he does those asides to the camera, like especially at the beginning of episodes when he's sort of catching us up on what's been going on, or you know, he just has such glee. He's like so excited about all the evil things he's about to do. It's so charming, even though he is like he's doing really, really underhanded evil things.
You might very well think so, but I couldn't possibly comment.
Yeah. Oh man.
You know, there's another good Netflix show from England, Peaky Blinders. I don't know if anybody's seen that.
I've never seen that.
It's post-World War I. It's in Birmingham, England, and it's the exploits of a gang at the time, and it's got some really good themes. They've got guys dealing with PTSD or shell shock at the time, just good gang kind of stuff. It's Sopranos kind of, but a little better, more stylized, good music, contemporary music with the old-timey look. It's very well done.
Cool. I'll have to check that out. I've never seen that.
Meanwhile, I've been watching Lost Girls.
Oh yeah.
Well, actually, I don't think I've ever heard anyone utter on a TV series before. Smells like roasted bitch.
You just sold me on that show.
Yeah.
Definitely gonna watch that.
Thinking of coming attractions too, who here is going to be watching Going Clear tonight?
Oh yeah, I really want to see that.
So
Not tonight.
Yes.
Alex Gibney strikes again.
Yeah, I really want to see that.
That's a later in the week. Tonight, Steve and I are probably both booked with our TV watching.
Yeah, I can't watch it tonight. I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna watch. See how badly they screw up WrestleMania.
Oh dear.
But as soon as possible, I want to watch Going Clear because I'm really excited about it. And the reviews it's gotten have been fantastic.
What what did Gibney also do that business, Mea Maxima Culpa? Was that his work?
Maybe. Actually, let me look that up because Mea Maxima Culpa was excellent.
It was off the. I'll tell you, it made me glad I watched it. It pissed the shit out of me.
Oh my God, I know. Yes, he did.
Yeah, I rather thought so. And it's. I mean, thinking back to Mea Maxima Culpa, I am still astonished. I mean, how much has Frankie actually talked about that? I mean, outside of maybe a couple of salutary lines. Much? Yeah. I don't think so.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day, actually, because my Off Monday Ramble video that goes up tomorrow is about, it's mostly pertaining to a sex scandal at the University of Oregon that a Facebook friend of mine brought to my attention. This really terrible incident where a woman was raped by multiple members of the men's basketball team, and then the university didn't investigate it until like several months later, and the guys who were alleged to have raped her were found. The university basically found them guilty and kicked them off campus and banned them from the university for like 10 years. But then when she sued the university for dragging their feet and not conducting an investigation immediately and not taking it seriously. And in order to defend themselves, the university checked into her therapy records and her medical records to try and find things they could use against her in the lawsuit, which apparently is totally legal as long as it's an on-campus therapist or an on-campus medical.
What happened to doctor-client privilege?
Apparently, if you seek medical treatment or something like that from an on-campus or from a college clinic, it's fair game. It's not covered under the HIPAA law.
That is ridiculous.
Which is crazy. But I was thinking about that, and I thought about how it's the same sort of attitude that is displayed by the Catholic Church. Even though we don't hear as much about it anymore, and even though it's been a few years since a really big scandal broke, it's that attitude of, well, we have to protect the reputation of the institution first, and giving justice to the victims and punishing the guilty has to come later, if at all. And it's really, really frustrating. And you're right. I mean, Francis hasn't really made that big of a deal of it.
No.
I mean, for all of the things he's tried to do to supposedly reform the church and make it more about helping the poor and more about service and all this stuff, he hasn't really done a whole lot.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of really nice PR, and I mean, the business with the guy delivering the pizza right to his Pope mobile, and it's all a lot of nice sizzle, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of steak.
Yeah.
I love that expression.
Yeah.
Well, that's been a long-time favorite saying of mine. And I think it started with Ronald Reagan, because he was a whole lot of sizzle, and the steak was, well, maybe a nice little bite, about yay by yay.
You're not seeing any steak because it's Lent.
I gave up Lent for Lent, thank you.
I say that every year myself.
Yeah. The steak was a nice amuse-bouche. I know culinary terms for the next few weeks because I'm watching Hell's Kitchen, and then when it's over, I'll forget about them again. That's what I do when the House of Cards episodes ran out. I was like, okay, what else are we gonna watch? Oh, I know, a trashy cooking reality show starring Gordon Ramsay. We'll watch that. So,
hey, Steve, could I go back to Richard Nixon for a second?
Sure.
Did you ever see the movie Nixon?
Yeah. Oh, the Oliver Stone movie. With Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins. Yeah. The one thing that struck me, Nixon, as far as I'm concerned, maybe he was brilliant in foreign policy and all this, but otherwise he was, you got to wonder if there was a vacancy where a part of his brain was. But the one scene when he actually has the cojones to go up to the Lincoln Monument and mix with some of the protesters, and he's having a conversation with this one, I think she was a female college student, where she's talking about the government as a monster, and it's like a light goes off in Nixon's head. And after a fashion, I think the movie was worth just that one moment to show that, something about Nixon that I suspect very few people know. I thought that was very impressive.
Yeah, that was a really good scene. I'm a fan of that movie in general. When Oliver Stone can sort of rein in the conspiracy theorist part of him, and just focus on telling a story, he is phenomenal. He's a phenomenal director. And Nixon, I think, is a really good movie. And I mean, I remember at the time that it came out, there was a lot of talk about how Anthony Hopkins didn't really look like him, which to me is irrelevant. Like, I don't care. I mean, I thought it was a good performance. And I'll tell you another really good performance by a great actor as Richard Nixon. Philip Baker Hall played Nixon in a movie, a Robert Altman movie called Secret Honor, which is like a one-person movie. It's actually based on a one-man play about Nixon called Secret Honor, and it's just Philip Baker Hall as Nixon in Nixon's private office after the Watergate disgrace, after he's resigned from the White House, and he's dictating his memoirs into a tape recorder, and he's telling like the true story. He's telling like everything that happened, and most of it is highly fictionalized, and there's some speculation about what was really going on behind the scenes in Watergate, and most of it you can't really accept it as historical fact. It's just fiction, but it's really, really well done. And you wouldn't think that like a 90-minute or so movie of just one guy just kind of monologuing the whole time would be interesting, but it's really kind of gripping because his performance is so strong. And he just kind of loses it. Like this version of Nixon is not entirely well. Like the pressure of disgrace has kind of gotten to him. It's a really good movie.
That was Secret what?
Secret Honor.
I have to look for that.
Yeah, I was really impressed by it.
I can just imagine him playing in some subtext between Nixon and his newfound hatred of tape recorders.
Yeah, there's kind of a running joke actually. Now you mention it, where Nixon, because he's dictating it, and with the implication that like one of his secretaries is going to transcribe it after the fact, and he leaves little instructions to her every now and then, like when he says something that he changes his mind about and thinks he shouldn't have said, he'll say, Mary, take that last bit out. So he is very wary of the tape recorder.
I think Saturday Night Live actually lampooned that. I think they did a parody of it at one point.
Let's pretend there is a conspiracy.
That was I'll bet money that was Dan Aykroyd doing it too. I don't quite remember it, but I mean, that's the role for Aykroyd.
Yeah.
They're just showing each other those cards that they were Sharpieing on.
That reminds me of the Saturday Night Live sketch where Reagan was like secretly a mastermind. And when the Girl Scouts come in to take pictures with the president, he's like Ronald Reagan. He's just sort of smiling, like, "Well, how's everybody doing?" And then as soon as the public leaves, he like becomes this hard-boiled political genius, and like he has like a supervillain map of the world like hidden behind a picture in the Oval Office, and he's like, "All right, what are we gonna do?"
Harkening back to Robin Williams. I'm with you, Duke. Oh, let's get down to Nicaragua and kick some ass.
Yeah, and he talks about him, Reagan being a Muppet.
Yeah.
You moved him too far!
It was arms.
Well, that reminds me of that. There was that British show with the puppets done up as political figures, and they had everybody. I'm sure they had Reagan in there. They had Maggie Thatcher in there, Prince Charles. Just larger-than-life caricatures of these people. I only have vague memories of it, but it was hilarious.
Yeah, didn't Genesis do a video with all those puppets?
I think they did. Yes.
And wasn't there a show called DC Follies based on those puppets as well?
Might have been.
I have to look that up.
Yeah, I think that was the Genesis video was Jesus He Knows Me, I think, wasn't it?
No, what was that? That was on a later album when they really got into
Oh
poppy
no,
music.
yeah. No, it wasn't Jesus He Knows Me. It was you're right, it was a different one. But there was something. No, Jesus He Knows Me is when he was the televangelist, and he was like he had like the his hair like pulled to the side.
Confusion.
Land of Confusion. Yes, that was it. That was it.
Google. Genesis to deal with puppets, and it brings up right away.
I should know my Genesis better than that. If I'm gonna try to make videos critiquing religion, I should know my Genesis better than that.
I was reading the Bible. I was trying to find information about Jezebel in the Old Testament, and so I started reading Kings. I didn't get that far, but apparently King Solomon is wiser than He-Man.
Man, nobody's wiser than He-Man.
Just look at the end of the episode.
Exactly. He was so wise that sometimes he would turn that shit over to Orko or Man at Arms. Like you guys do the moral this week.
You had me in fucking stitches with the end of the 5 Stupid Things About He-Man at the end when you did the moral. That was awesome.
That was fun. I wish I could do that at the end of every video. I just, I love shows like, I mean, as a kid, and when I bought into the whole thing, I thought it was great because it was like He-Man's talking to me, And now as an adult, like I love shows like that. And it's funny when we mentioned House of Cards, which has that technique of the main character speaking directly to the audience. Like, it's such a weird sort of cognitive dissonance that happens where it's like you're watching a fictional show that has a closed world where the characters are not aware of the camera, and then all of a sudden one of the characters just starts talking to the camera. Like
well, that's the whole idea of breaking the fourth wall, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And if it's done right, it can be really effective. But I mean, it creates that. I shouldn't say I wish more shows would do that because that would totally ruin it. But I love that acknowledgement that what you're watching is a work of fiction. Like they're taking the chance of ruining the suspension of disbelief by doing that.
But it's one of my favorite tropes. It lets you in on what's going on. Like, oh, this is just for you. You get to know this is a secret, but not everybody else does. That's fun.
That's one thing that I really enjoyed when Moonlighting indulged in it. There was this one episode when Maddie has left, completely unexpected. David Addison is basically left with his, face and his heart hanging out, and he's wondering what the heck. He takes her 633i and wrecks it, and then is confronted with these two people who basically pulled a real fast one on him and say, I apologize, I hope, whatever have you. And he does a snapshot, look aside to the camera as, these guys don't watch the show very often, do they? And then he turns right back to them as though nothing had happened.
Yeah. Chris, were you going to say something?
Yeah, where do you have expressed a distaste with exposition, like the whole show don't tell. Where does soliloquy fall in that?
Well, it depends with me. I mean, usually when it works, whether we're talking about like on stage or on a film or on TV where they're addressing the camera, it has to do more than just be exposition. Mm-hmm. It has to tell us something that maybe we couldn't get in another way. Like it's the exposition thing is also one of the main reasons why I tend not to like musicals, because most of the musical numbers in terms of their content are just exposition. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's a shortcut. Like they're just telling us shit that instead of letting us discover it throughout the story. But like a good soliloquy gets you inside the character's head, mm-hmm. and lets you understand what they're feeling. And like Siri said a minute ago, it can also sort of connect you to the character. And in the case of the House of Cards asides to the camera, it actually almost implicates you.
Yeah.
He's taking you into his confidence. He's about to do this horrible, evil, manipulative thing, and he's sort of turning to you like, watch this. And you know, he's sort of making you a part of it, making you an accomplice to what he's doing, and it can be a really effective device. But if it's just, I mean, if it's just the character telling you exposition or just doing something just purely for the purpose of moving the plot along because the writer couldn't think of a better way to do it, it's really no better than a voiceover. I mean, voiceovers kind of follow the same rule. Like, if you have a voiceover in a movie and all the voiceover is doing is just telling you shit that could easily have been shown to you, then I usually think it's better off. You're better off to just chuck it. You know,
that reminds me of the movie Wolf of Wall Street, where Leonardo DiCaprio actually does he does the voiceover thing very well and the talking to the camera thing, and he actually does it both in a very funny and interesting way.
Yeah, and I'm gonna. There's a movie. The first Sin City really rides the line between that, because I haven't seen the newer one. I haven't seen the sequel, but the first Sin City film is just narrated completely. Like, it's voiceover wall to wall, and you hear what people are thinking, and they're, you know, narrating everything that's happening, and there are it almost goes the whole way around where it becomes good because it just goes so far over. It just commits to it so much, and you just kind of, it just overwhelms you with just blunt force. It's just like, okay, there's so much voiceover in this, you know, just fuck it, fine, whatever, go ahead. You know. And I guess they're making a nod to the comic and to sort of pulp crime stories that have the really hard-boiled narration to them, so you can kind of excuse it for that. But I mean, yeah, if it doesn't justify itself by revealing something about the character or by being entertaining in its own right, it's just, whether it's a soliloquy or not, it's better to just lose it, you know.
There's a curious thing. I have in my mind an idea of film noir, but I don't know any film noir movies, and I never actually, maybe one or two that actually fit my idea of it, but otherwise there's a very fully formed idea that I have no examples of.
Well, there's lots to choose from. I mean,
the closest thing I've ever seen, I think, might have been, well, yes and no, maybe, but the 1965 Mirage with Gregory Peck and Diane Baker. It's sort of the trailing edge, I think, of film noir, but it doesn't get as deeply into it as perhaps some others did. But I always liked that movie.
My favorite film noir is probably Out of the Past, with Robert Mitchum. That is such a great movie, and Mitchum is just amazing in that. He was always one of my favorite actors because he had he played characters that really seemed dangerous and really seemed unstable, and he just had such an electric energy when he was on screen. And there's a scene in Out of the Past when his character like walks into a private club, and he goes upstairs to the boss's office, you know, and he's gonna get in the boss's face and tell him what the deal is, and the guy outside the door kind of steps in front of him and says, "Can I help you?" And Mitchum says no, and he punches the guy out and walks through the office like without even breaking stride. Or no, he says, what did you need? And Mitchum says nothing. And like just walks right in the fucking door. It's so cool. The Third Man is a good one too. The Third Man is a great film noir. There's tons of great film noir from the 40s and 50s especially. It's like the sort of thing. It's the sort of stuff that Sin City is riffing on. Like, you realize Sin City is almost, even though its tone is superficially serious, that a lot of it is kind of a parody on film noir, because everything's just turned up to maximum volume, you know. It's so pulpy and so hard boiled, but it's those movies from the film noir films from the 40s and 50s that it's mostly getting its inspiration from.
When I wrote a piece to do on stage once, I've only done it once, but decided to wear a pinstripe suit for it, so I put on the pinstripe suit and I walked like downtown, like 10 miles in the suit in 90-degree weather.
Yikes.
It made for a good bit, though. It was
were cops like following you around?
No. I'm sure they were imaginary.
Yeah.
No, but this guy by the name of Vito basically was trailing you in that 57 Plymouth.
Hey, what you doing?
This guys? We got somebody crabbing our territory.
Yeah.
Oh, there was a trope in. I thought that there was a trope in film noir where you say everything, but what's to the point? Like, you don't say things as they are. You like beat around the bush in a creative way.
Yeah. There's a funny real life instance of that where, because like as soon as gangsters realized that the FBI could bug their phones or could listen into them, they started getting more creative with how they would talk about conducting their business, and they would come up with codes so that if they were being recorded, there was nothing on the tape that could, they weren't saying, okay, let's go buy some drugs now. They would come up with better ways to say it so that they couldn't be implicated on the tape. And there's this one story I heard about. There was a gang that was they were the code they came up with for whatever product they were moving. I don't know if it was cocaine or heroin or whatever, but they would say shirts. Like a shirt meant so much cocaine, let's just say. Mm-hmm. And the FBI was recording them on the tape, and one of the guys said, "So, how much do you want?" And the other guy said, "Give me 7.5 shirts."
What color? Black tar. Yeah, that's the color of shirts I want.
Like, who gets half a fucking shirt?
Wow, these fellas are really into fashion.
Yeah. They're brilliant. What could they possibly be talking about?
Wouldn't half a shirt be a vest?
Yeah. Come on, come up with a different name. Give me
at least 2/3 of a shirt.
Give me 6 shirts, a couple of hats, and a pair of socks. Okay.
And a white
pair of undies.
Yeah. Be a little more creative.
It's fun. I'm actually reading a book where they kind of take that trope and flip it around. Because they talk about, they don't want people to know where they're going or what they're doing, so they mix in different codes. Like, oh, hey, we're going to kill the president tonight. Come over to where we buried the Korean hooker.
That's hilarious.
It'd be great if they made the codes sound like just other criminal things. Or is that what you were saying?
Yeah, because you're planning to like assassinate somebody, but you say you're going to rob a bank. Throw them off the track.
We're going to go beat orphans to death with dead cats.
Mobilize the orphan beating prevention unit immediately. You've got them on tape.
Actually, you pull that off well enough, you could, set a really good red herring to, in theory, set the police off in a wild goose chase.
You could be the Joker.
Yeah, right. The Joker, who is so good that he not only knows when the school buses are running, but he knows the precise moment to back out into traffic so he can be right in the middle of the school bus line as they're going by the bank.
Yeah, the traffic read the script, Steve. Come on.
The school bus drivers were in on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, the Joker's friends with the stunt coordinator, obviously. It's like in Space Jam when Bill Murray shows up on scene. Daffy Duck asks, "Well, how'd you get here?" "Well, I had a guy drive me in. It's no big deal."
Yeah, it's like that. That just made me think of like all the plot holes in The Dark Knight that you don't even like. Most of them you don't even really notice until the movie's over, which I don't really have a problem with. Like my favorite example of that sort of thing is the movie The Fugitive, because I've said this before. I've probably said it in a video before. If you watch The Fugitive and then after the movie's over, you think about it for just about 2 minutes. Like the whole story completely collapses. Like everything is plotted by convenience. Like the marshals just happen to be going to visit a prisoner at the exact same moment that Dr. Kimball is going to visit the same prisoner, and that's what kicks off the big chase that ends at the St. Patrick's Day parade. Like there's all these coincidences that the story completely relies on, or nothing in the movie happens. But you don't notice it, hopefully, while you're actually watching the movie. The movie pulls you along.
Well, what kills me about the Fugitive more than anything else is just about the criminally lazy investigation process that they go through when they're vetting Kimball in the first place. I mean, it's ridiculous. And all of a sudden they've got this doctor, they've got this vascular surgeon doing a better job of investigating than the Chicago Police Department. Come on!
I can't believe they railroad a rich white doctor like that to begin with in the movie.
Yeah, that one.
If he was a rich black doctor, bang, absolutely.
Let's just watch Enemy of the State.
Yeah.
Which wasn't a bad flick, actually. I liked Enemy of the State.
Yeah.
That was the one where they were like tracking. Okay, he had this digital recording of somebody getting killed by a senator, right? And then the senator like co-opted a bunch of intelligence resources to just follow him, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, it was John Voight was in that, wasn't he? He was the primary bad guy.
Yeah, I think so.
And of course, you had Gene Hackman as the rogue.
Yeah. And Gene Hackman was in another movie with a similar plot, with the Clint Eastwood movie Absolute Power, where he actually played the president, and the president is the one who committed the awful deed, And Clint was sort of like the guy who exposed him. Lots of scoundrel presidents. It's like the scoundrel president is sort of like the unofficial theme of our hangout today. I'm talking about House of Cards, and Nixon, and.
All right, how about a scoundrel king? Has anyone seen The Lion in Winter?
Never have.
That
would be on my to-watch list. I'm ashamed to say I have never seen it. Yeah.
It's fantastic. It has fantastic lines. Like, let me see. What if I were king? And then the King of France says, what if, as a game for scholars, what if angels sat on pinheads?
Do you name these videos before you put them up or after? Like, you give them a title? These hangouts on your channel.
Do I name them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I name them beforehand.
So you can't change to the Scumbag President Edition?
I could change it.
Everything's coming up Millhouse.
I can do whatever I want. I might do that. I might change the title. It would be more appropriate to call it the Scoundrel President's Edition than, yeah. I can do whatever I want. I'm omnipotent. I'm a YouTube content creator. Actually, I can't.
I just keyed on what's her name? The phone lady from Laughing. We're omnipotent. That's potent with an omni in front of it.
Yes.
God, I can't think of her name. Lily Tomlin.
Yeah.
Ernestine, the phone lady.
We were talking about Lily Tomlin the other day. My friend Matt, who is the director of the independent film company that I write for, he had me helping him out on Friday. He was shooting a commercial for a local business, and during one of the breaks in shooting, we were talking about movie stuff, and we were talking about that video that went viral a couple years ago with Lily Tomlin and David O. Russell on the set of, I think it was I Heart Huckabees, where they were just
thinking that,
where they were just screaming at each other, and O. Russell was just totally losing it, and there's that incredible moment where he's screaming at her and cussing at her, and he walks off the set, and then he comes back and starts yelling at her again, but he comes back through the set door. He walks off stage, and it's like he must have walked around, and he comes through the on-camera door like he's a character in the scene or something. It is so funny. Because he's apparently totally serious. He's so fucking pissed at Lily Tomlin for whatever. And he comes through the set door, and another thing, I'll tell you. It's like a scene out of a sitcom or something.
And then comes the grace of impromptu.
Everybody be quiet. Just enjoy it. There was a guy on, speaking of NPR, there was a guy on NPR yesterday that I heard just little bits and pieces of, talking about, it was on the series they do about TED Talks, and he was describing his TED Talk about like the virtue of silence, you know, about how it's important to be able to take a moment, you know, every day and just kind of sit quietly and go over your thoughts, and how, you know, if you go to the doctor and the doctor tells you need to exercise more, then you might take that seriously. But if a doctor told you you needed to, you know, carve out 30 minutes a day just to sit quietly, you'd probably just think he was nuts. But that could be just as important.
I see that as being incredibly cogent advice, especially, you know, for the type A personalities who are going to type A themselves into a heart attack or a stroke. I just, you know, taking time is not something that is intuitively obvious to them or a lot of other people, and just taking that time and stop.
Yeah.
You know, even for 10 minutes, stop.
Yeah, we do have this weird hang about falling silent, you know, when you're in a conversation, where, you know, someone will just go, awkward. It's like, no, it's not. You know, you can sit in an elevator with someone and just keep your mouth shut, and it's not weird. You know?
Yeah.
I'm also reminded, one of my favorite choral composers is a newcomer by the name, relative newcomer by the name of Eric Whitacre.
Oh yeah, I love that guy.
He took if you know A Boy and a Girl, the third verse of that is representing them after this couple who have sharing their oranges and kisses flowing like clouds exchanging foam, and at the end exchanging silence and a pause, a considerable pause for silence, and it's breathtaking in the impact that it has, because it's representing exactly what the relationship was and is.
Yes, silence can be an incredibly powerful tool as a storyteller. Sometimes even if you're just like, I know sometimes when I'm doing just my YouTube videos, which are just talking head stuff, you know, it's just me talking to camera, but knowing when to stop and when to take a pause, and knowing when you're editing, knowing when to leave the pause in, as opposed to taking it out with like a jump cut or a transition to something else. I mean, a well-placed moment of silence can be incredibly effective, and sometimes even necessary. You know, like there was Patton Oswalt has a really funny bit on one of his comedy albums where he's telling a joke, he's setting something up, and he has to have like a moment of silence in the joke for the punchline to land, and he does that moment of silence, and then someone in the audience does what Brett was just saying, like they make a farting sound, or they go awkward or something,
or woo.
Yeah, and Patton Oswalt just loses it and just rips them apart, and he's like, "You fucking idiot! You ruined it! There had to be a moment of silence. You couldn't wait. You couldn't give me like 3 seconds of silence. You panicked and you thought, oh no, everybody's quiet. I have to do something, and you had to make some stupid fucking noise and ruin the whole thing." And like it was.
Well,
and that's exactly what it is too. I mean, it's a rest to process. I don't know if you remember. I'm just pulling stuff out of my ass, I guess, right now. But that one episode of Babylon 5 where the news commentator talking about what's just gone on Babylon 5 at the end of the war said, "Selah, pause and reflect," and it's absolutely valid. And yet, how often is it really practiced?
Yeah, it's important. I mean, in real life, I think it's important not just for the pause itself and for the rest, but to remind yourself that you have that option, you know, because like you say, Lauren, I mean, a lot of people who are naturally driven people, it might not even occur to you that you can stop, And just realizing that unless you are in an incredibly urgent situation where immediate action is needed, if you're just having a busy day, you always have that option to just, I'm just going to take 2 or 3 minutes and just do nothing. I'm just going to sit quietly and calm down and, just take a moment. And the power of knowing that you have that option is really, really important, I think, because we forget it so often.
I think some people don't do that because they're afraid of losing control, and this is partly maybe the type A thing, and it may be partly, again, just the whole fear thing. I've got to be constantly monitoring things. I've got to be checking this, that, and the other because I'm in control, and if I lose control, then I can't have to get back control, and it's just paranoia. Yeah. And I think they forget that if they don't, I think it reflects a lack of control of themselves.
Just to bring it full circle, who should have taken a moment to himself in silence? Nixon.
Nice.
And we're done.
It's a perfect circle.
Full circle.
Yes, it's beautiful. If only Nixon had taken a moment of silence, or if only he had remained silent after the 1960 election and had just retired quietly.
Yeah, I won't have Nixon to beat up anymore.
Oh yeah. But that was when he was had to go away from the governor position.
That was the governor, and 62. Yeah, that made the wrong illusion, but
yeah,
it's probably a less sophisticated speech than the one you were talking about earlier, Steve.
You won't have Nixon to kick around anymore.
I am not a crook.
Looking at like the archival footage and knowing just how preoccupied we are today with how our politicians look. It is amazing that a person as unattractive as Nixon was able to be elected president.
Yeah. Oh, Fahrenheit 451, there was that bit where the main character called a lady out because she said she's not going to vote for that guy because he was once seen on camera picking his nose. There was no other reason at all for her to not vote for him.
Boy, I just watched that not that long ago. I don't remember that.
Well, it was in the book. I don't know if it was in the movie.
Okay. All right.
The movie is excellent, though. I do really like the movie, too.
Yeah.
Isn't the term fourth wall based on the book because they sit in the cube watching TV and there's
they don't
four walls to watching the television?
So they made a thing in the book about the fact that they didn't have the fourth wall of the screen. They were saving up for it. His wife really wanted the fourth wall.
Right. But
fourth wall breaks long
they
before.
Did have 4 walls, but they just didn't. The couple didn't because they couldn't afford it.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, actually, I just looked it up. The term, the term comes from Moliere, so it's quite a bit older than.
Yes.
Google was mighty.
But but yeah, I think they were probably making a joke. We can't afford the fourth wall. But it's been a while since I watched that movie. That's a really good movie.
The audience can hear everything we're saying, honey. Get the damn fourth wall.
One more thing, and then before I wrap this up, it just reminded me of something that I thought about earlier when we were talking about breaking the fourth wall and soliloquies and stuff. I've always wondered if the movie Amadeus would have been what that movie would have been like if they would have kept the device that they had in the stage version, where the character of Salieri talks to the audience as opposed to talking to the priest like he does in the movie. I tried to imagine what that would be like. I bet that would have been something. I guess they changed it for the film because they wanted the film to be more serious and not feel gimmicky, and it would be strange to have Salieri constantly breaking the fourth wall. But that would have been pretty interesting if they had used that device instead of having him confess to the priest in the asylum.
That's interesting, because I almost felt like there was a fourth wall breaking all the time, as if they did keep that device.
Yeah, there was some of that, yeah. Because his narration was constantly, intruding, and because the priest that he was talking to really, he was literally purely there to be spoken to. like he had just a few little lines here and there, but he was literally just there as an interlocutor, and he had nothing else to say.
Do you mind if I steal your attention for a moment, Steve? I did have a couple questions.
Oh, please.
So one's quite serious. An atheist reads, God's Not Dead, Chapter 6. Mm-hmm. Brooks asserts that the meaninglessness of atheism and unbelief increases suicides and drug abuse. And you didn't really comment on that in your retort. You sort of commented on the meaningless part of it and not the suicide and drug. Was that because you didn't really think that was relevant, or because you didn't find any evidence of that, of atheism increasing that, or?
I mean, I'm not aware of any evidence that says that atheism increases suicide, Mm-hmm. So I didn't, by not addressing it, I didn't mean to say that I agreed with it.
It's also kind of irrelevant.
And it's one of those things you hear a lot. Like, it's just, I don't think that Brooks really has any reason to think that, other than he just assumes that it's true.
Yeah, he assumes that if he didn't have God, he would be meaningless, and so he would want to commit suicide and all that.
Yeah, 97% of statistics are pulled out of one's ass at the time they need it.
Yeah. I think it's probably a little bit of projection too. He assumes that, well, he thinks, well, gee, if I thought there was no God, I would just kill myself. My life would be meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how I feel.
And my other question was, when you're for the Patreon $1,500 campaign, would you consider releasing the scripts for that, so we have a text to search from, so that when you're doing the Atheist Reads backlog, we can go back and sort of pick out parts to quote back, or refute ourselves?
Yeah, I could probably do that.
Yeah. Cool. I used to actually.
Yeah, on the earlier episodes of the An Atheist Reads series, I think I was posting my scripts on my blog, and I kind of stopped doing that. But yeah, I could do that. I could release the because I'm probably going to go through and polish the scripts up a little bit before I record those podcasts anyway.
Yeah.
So that would be a good opportunity to kind of fix them up, and I could release them.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That's a good idea.
Thank you.
And if you would like the scripts, it's patreon.com/Steve Shive.
Exactly. I'm starting to think about podcasting stuff now, because it feels like now since I passed my $1,000 milestone, it feels like that's within striking distance now,
You'll get there.
Thinking about that, Steve, did you see and or hear Seth's podcast of this morning that he released? It started working, I guess, at 3 in the morning.
I haven't listened to it yet. I saw that he posted it, and I saw
Excellent rant, wonderful rant, and incredibly focused rant.
Oh, he's good. He's got that. Yeah, he's still got that radio in him. He can just focus like a laser beam and just go on and on and on and on. I really do want to listen. I'll probably have a chance to listen to it sometime this afternoon, in between my other things. I would really like to hear it. I think because I saw that he posted something on Facebook about it, and like when he was just about to do it, and it sounded like something interesting. So,
well, I mean, for being a guy who's supposedly jet lagged and literally just got back to the States, he is awfully coherent.
Yeah, he's something. He's something. I've only actually gotten a chance to talk to him once, and we've exchanged emails a couple of times, but I've only actually spoken to him, and it was just like, it was a hangout like this. I've only got to do that once, but it was really cool, because he's a really cool guy, and right on top of things. Like, I wish he had like 1 million subscribers. I wish that when people thought of like YouTube atheists, they thought of that guy, because he's just my favorite.
Well, at the risk of sounding like I'm kissing ass, he's headed for there, and you're right behind him.
Oh, soon I will have all the power.
He's right behind him. Is he kissing his ass?
Yeah.
Soon I will have all the power, and then I will have all the things, and then I will have all the fuzzy things.
I'll have to start doing House of Cards type soliloquies in Stephen Stuffy videos.
Yeah, be careful of those fuzzy things if they include tribbles.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
I gotta say this is. I think of your Atheist Read series like the highlight of your channel, but I do have to say I was a little sad to see the Stephen Stuffy videos go away this time to make way for him. I've been, because I normally haven't been really into them because I was like, grown man talking to stuffed animals, but I've been really getting into them lately. So, good job, I guess.
Thank you. Yeah, well, see, I think last year I finished the Atheist Reads up really early in the year, so like almost 5 or 6 months of Thursday videos last year were Stephen Stuffy videos. So I did like way more of them than I had done in previous years. And I think I've got comments like that from a couple people who said like I didn't really watch these, but I kind of like them now. So that's good.
I did love your Hans response to my question. That was awesome. That was in the what was that, the 100th you had to ask?
Yeah, where the animals answered questions. Yeah. Yeah. I'll probably do that. I'll probably do that again at some point. That was fun. Yeah. Well, anyway, before I close down here, speaking of Patreon stuff, the voting for 5 more stupid things does start tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So if you're a patron, check my activity feed, and you'll get the link to go to the forum to vote for 5 more stupid things. And the voting will be open all week. And then in the next couple weeks, I'll start putting those videos up. It'll probably take me another week or two to start writing them and get them in production because I'm a few weeks ahead on the 5 Stupid Things production. But as soon as I know what the 5 topics are going to be, I'll start writing them and making them. So hopefully by the middle or end of April, the 5 videos will begin to be released every Wednesday. So voting starts. Yeah. No, go ahead.
Is it just 1 vote per person, or is it like the podcast award that you get 1 per day?
You can vote more than once. I'm using a Google form. So if I were to limit votes, then you would have to sign in. Like you'd have to have a Google account, and I didn't want to put that extra limitation on it. Right. So you could vote more than once. And there are I did weed down the list of topics. So on the actual ballot, there are 25 topics, but then there are also 5 write-in slots. So if you want, you can vote for 5 topics that aren't on the list that you would prefer than the ones on the list. I originally was gonna just put the whole thing up. I was gonna do every past topic I've ever done, but Ashley said that's way too many. Like nobody's going to scroll through like 180 topics to pick 5. So I went through and picked 25, and it's a mixture of like the most viewed videos in the series, and also some of the ones that I really liked or that I thought could stand to have 5 more done about it. So
even you've admitted you can't always come up with 5 for every topic, so it kind of stink if everyone voted for one that you only could get 3 for and had to fudge the other 2 for. Now you gotta come up with a whole new 5.
Like, oh damn it, that would kind of suck. Yeah, I mean usually it's easy, and the way it often works is like I'll get stuck at 3 and I'll be like, oh fuck, what am I gonna do about this one? And then like I'll get like 5 more, like they sort of come in like a flood. And then I have to weed it down to 5. But yes, sometimes it is really hard. I think I admitted that in one of the videos. Like some weeks it is just a catchphrase. Some weeks the hardest part is not, in fact, picking 5. Picking only 5. The hardest part is getting to 5. Mm-hmm. But you don't let them see you sweat.
No.
You make it look easy. And then they'll respect
girls
you.
Don't sweat, they glow.
Exactly. Oh my! All right. Well, I'm going to wrap this up, everybody. Thank you guys in the room for joining me, as always. Thank all of you guys who are patrons for contributing to the Patreon campaign. Those of you who are watching who might want to get in on the fun, every dollar is important. There are no small donations, only small YouTubers. But you can go to my Patreon site, patreon.com/SteveShives, and become a member of the campaign and have a chance to join me doing this once a month if that's your type of thing. And also, this week, as I said, voting for 5 more stupid things is underway. Only patrons get to vote, so if you want to vote, you got to become a patron. And
remember, every dollar you give to Steve, you can be guaranteed will be going to not shelter pedophile priests.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Brett. And on that note, thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you for this again next month.
Yeah.